welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Glad you could be here, and glad everyone showed up after eating lunch. It's always a good debate about whether you want to be the first presenter after lunch or the last presenter of the afternoon. Neither one of them is great, but I'm glad you all are here. And I'm Joanne McLain. I work at the Financial Health Institute, and we serve primarily Colorado, but some other states as well. So we've been involved with community action for years and years. So obviously some of you see me. 2 years ago in Breckenridge, I did a workshop on economic trauma. So my background is mental health, so I do more the psychological sorts of things, and obviously with Financial Health Institute, we do economics. Glad you all are here. I'll introduce my co-conspirator here.
We were told to get near the microphone because there are people online, so they could hear us, I assume. Should I hold it, I guess?
Yeah, you can pick it up. It's on, yeah.
Yeah, let me do that.
Take it off if you want.
Okay, thanks. There we go. Hi. Yeah, my name is Fred Richmond. Andrea embarrassed me by introducing me already for tomorrow morning's keynote, but
The coolest cat.
coolest cat, yeah. Oh, I've known her too long. Okay, so my organization is called the Center for Applied Management Practices. The acronym is CAMP, and we based both in Denver and in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So how many of you took a Roma course or a Roma trainer? Anyone in the room here? Okay, you know the blue book? That's my name on it, okay? Yes, you have the book. Yeah, bring it in, I'll sign it for you. Yes. You invited me to your room? No, that's not. First time, I mean.
Come up and sign my room.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's the best. A new pickup line. I like it. Yeah. All right. So, Joanne and I are colleagues and friends. We've worked together on different projects. The work we have done is, for those of you who do the Roma, we created the Roma curriculum, the national training program, the whole thing. And then about, 12 years ago, we got into the software business as well. So we have a product called eLogic Genesis. It's in 7 states, and it runs statewide in Nevada and in Louisiana. All the agencies are linked together, things like that. So you can find out who we are on our website and all that stuff. The reason why this is here is that on a personal level, I think John may share this, I think the logic model is one of the best tools that we have that lays out on essentially a single piece of paper a composite of all you really need to know to understand an organization. And sometimes the presentation can be a little dry, and we've done it. Depends on the presenter too. But on this one, a few years ago, we thought, let's have some fun. And as we can tell a story, which is you hear from Bradley and everyone else today, and communication, what we do is about storytelling. And that's what we're about. So this one I took literally to heart. And we, well, you'll see. Okay. All right. So, yeah, thank you for doing that. Okay. So essentially, this is hands-on, it's interactive, and this material is posted on the site. I think you're aware of that all the PowerPoints are posted. Okay, and there's, okay.
And
So,
you can take the free online course if you want. If you go to the camp table, and there's a QR code, you can get into our FHI online learning environment and for free take the course that this is.
Yes.
Online course. Yeah.
Right. So
Listen to the music again.
you'll see what we did. We had a little fun with this. Okay. So basically, very simple. We're going to talk about how to create a logic model, why you use it with evaluation and planning, using logic models to develop a local theory of change. Just one example. This happened to myself and colleagues about 2 years ago. We're working in childcare in the state of Nevada. There was a big meeting in Philadelphia, and they asked people from different states what their ideas were how to implement a childcare system. So we sat down with the folks in Nevada, and we presented a logic model. Okay, the person who represented Nevada went to Philadelphia. She sat at the meeting. People were there. She literally pulled out the piece of paper. No one had anything, zero. And right at that moment, they gave Nevada the contract. It was that simple, because the logic model laid out, and you'll see all the components of that. And that's not an exaggeration. That really happened because she went in, knew her stuff, and said, okay, these folks are serious. They understand. We don't have to start from scratch and make the connection. So it does work. Okay. So this is the one taught in the Roma. I think everyone recognizes this if you've done that. The acronyms are the numbers. There's the left to right, the need, the services, the outcome indicators, the actual results, and then how do we measure it, the data, and the basically the basically the reporting. Okay, is what it is. You'll recognize that. So, yeah, and we'll go over this. I'm just giving you the background. Okay, so again, using that story about the child care situation in Philadelphia, conceptualize a project, easy to understand, that was done, right? We clearly, in our world, we have to explain when an intervention is appropriate, needed. Results-oriented, I'm gonna talk about this. I have a 3:30 in here on social return on investment. And my keynote speech tomorrow morning is about the economics of human services, where I'm gonna talk about results and dollars and things like that. Okay, and then essentially, the Roma cycle, which you've seen the arrows and the circle, okay. All right, so again, we have three worlds. One thing, community action, it operates on three levels, right? The family, the individual on the left. We jump to the community on the right, and then in the middle is the agency. So what you're really talking about, you have levels of need that cross in those areas. What does the agency need to do its business? What does the community need to be a stable, safe, thriving community? And what do individuals need to be economically stable, et cetera? I've dropped the word self-sufficiency. I lobbied for that several years ago to take it out of the language because it just doesn't happen, okay?
None of us are self-sufficient.
Yeah. And as you'll see, the national theory of change uses economic mobility, I think stability, and in other words, took out self-sufficiency for many reasons. And it just seemed to me it was so global, what did it really mean? And there are ways of measuring that, and we'll, again, talk about that tomorrow morning. Okay, thanks. All right, so just briefly for background, this is something that I slip up because it's sort of, how do you separate the service and the need? And what you have is left to right here. So a lot of times when we teach a class, we'll say, what's the need? And what you get is the top right. Families need weatherization services. That's the service. The need is they have high utility bills. And I can tell you, when I've written logic models myself, I fall into that trap until I go back and I look at it. It's an easy thing to slip into. These are obvious. Families need rental assistance payments. Okay, we understand that, but they're at risk of eviction. And if you look at job skill training, lack of job skills. So it's a matter of spinning those words. So it's a need statement versus the delivery mechanism, okay? Community, it's the same thing. You can see that. Again, this is all posted. So if you look at the first one, I just go back to, so if it's a service, our community needs to develop summer programs for youth. That's typical. What you're really saying is our community doesn't have those summer programs. I like to think of this as a mirror. Just say the opposite of what's in the service and it becomes the need. So again, our community needs to be affordable housing. The word need is the giveaway. What you're saying is we have limited affordable housing. That's the type of language we're trying to get at. And that makes a big difference when you're trying to explain to people. And what I want to talk about also tomorrow is how do we educate our world as to who we are, what we do, and why we're important, because a lot of that is lost right now in the translation. So if we go to the agency, okay. So again, let's take a look at, for this time, clarify the need. Our agency lacks trained staff to employment services, or the service is our agency needs to provide services. So again, you can see the back and forth here. And this is just a matter of practice, but what you really do, if you think about why we exist, is to address, fix a need. That's why we exist. And everything we do from day one is needs-driven. We're a needs-based service, so to speak. And that's why we have to say it that way, okay? All right. And I think turn that over to you.
That's enough theory for now.
That's perfect.
Enough theory. Whatever. Yeah. So we're gonna going to watch a little video, the first part of a story. And what I'd like is if you, while you're watching, listening, to think about what are the needs, right? And then who potential people might be to work on those needs. What are the needs?
And dance, right?
If you want to dance, we can dance.
So,
The dance music is better in the second one.
so just one thing to add is when you talk about the story, it's no different than a client coming into your agency and explaining why they're there. This is the equivalent.
Yep. So the logic model is a story, right? Story has a beginning and an end. If it's a good story, it has a certain flow. Stories have certain flows. So we're going to work on this.
Once upon a time in a faraway country, there was a small village of 150 families whose homes surrounded a lake alongside a mountain that was shrouded in mist. The small but cozy houses provided safe, clean shelter, and the families lived there for many generations. The villagers were friendly and hardworking. Many were farmers and lived off the land. They were not rich, but they were happy and entertained themselves with music and dance. At the top of the mountain, whose summit could rarely be seen because of the mist, it was rumored there lived a dragon. Some of the elders claimed to have seen the dragon, but their stories were dismissed as tall tales and not at all believable. And so it came to pass, as the story has been told, a loud roar awakened the townspeople in the middle of the night. Bright light that looked like fire could be seen at the top of the mountain. At first, the villagers thought that a bad storm was passing over the village, but the sound grew louder, and what they thought was lightning was actually fire. And then the earth shook as something large made its way down from the mountaintop. Through the mist, the villagers saw the dragon appear. It was at least 50 feet long, with large flapping wings and a tail. When the dragon saw the villagers, it flew up into the sky and let loose its fury of fire on the villagers' homes. The villagers ran for their lives. By morning, with no sign of the dragon, the good townspeople began to feel safe and returned to the village. Some found their homes damaged and others found their fields burnt. Some of the villagers set about providing temporary shelter to families that were left homeless due to the damage caused by the dragon. Farmers whose fields were not damaged shared their crops with families who were left without sufficient food to eat. Fortunately, only 10 homes, those closest to the mountain, were badly damaged. Unfortunately, the town hall was also damaged along with some of the historic records and scrolls. Following the dragon's reign of terror, the village elders convened a meeting and proposed offering a bounty to anyone who could slay the dragon, and the announcement attracted potential dragon slayers from all over the countryside. 2 such heroes climbed the mountain with hopes of dispatching the dragon, but were unsuccessful in their quest and barely got out with their lives. The elders realized that they also had to address the damage done by the dragon, so they turned to each other and in a collective sigh said, "Where do we begin? What should we do first?" One of the elders, an older wise woman, remarked that the village had a book of runes. As a young child, she had seen the book, which opened with the advice, "Read this book when the need is great." The Book of Runes was known to have been kept in the town hall, and a group of villagers, young and old, searched high and low for the book that could provide guidance in their current dilemma. Eventually, they located loose pages that the hot winds of the dragon's fire had scorched. Sifting through the rubble, a townsperson found what appeared to be the cover of the book, with 2 letters still legible: R.O. Another person found a partially burned page on which it was written, "Identify the need and state it clearly." "I think that's where we should start," said one of the townspeople. One of the villagers found another piece of paper with 3 letters, M-I-S, and remembered from listening to the elders the importance of establishing their purpose at the beginning of any endeavor. As word spread, more and more of the townspeople felt the need to work together, wanting to develop a plan should the dragon return and again wreak havoc on their community. The safest place to meet, which had not been damaged from the dragon's visit, was the village tavern, where many a weary traveler could catch a good night's sleep, a tasty meal, and enjoy the pleasant music provided by the town's talented folk musicians. While it was recognized that the generosity of the townspeople helped those families most in need, the village elders thought it best to create an organization that would be ready to respond to any future calamity. After much discussion, the elders suggested creating 3 organizations that were given the names Helpers Incorporated, Healers United, and the Collective Agriculture Association, or CAA. While most of this initial effort was voluntary, the village's 2 business enterprises, the Farmers Guild and the Bankers Collective, provided startup funds to support the 3 new organizations in their new missions. As one of the villagers involved in forming the new organizations commented, "It was like granting a wish come true."
Okay, think about the story here. So, who's involved? What are their stories and who can help, right? So if we were starting out any enterprise to meet a need, we'd want to be looking for these sort of things. So one group we have identified already is the elders. So, yeah, at first they wanted to kill the dragon. That was their thought. Didn't work, right? Yeah. So then they decided, okay, well, let's take care of the people that had their homes burned, their fields burned, and got injured and that sort of thing. Okay. So how do they know what to do? They have to ask. They do a needs assessment, right? Okay. So we come up with a mission for the elders here: to provide oversight and guidance to the efforts of all of the groups in the community to assure effective and efficient operations. Does that sound like a governing type of body? Yeah. Okay, that's the elders. So then they ask the question, they do their needs assessment. The villagers tell their stories, right? Needs assessments are stories. You gather stats, but you gather stories. So, cause a lot of problems for the village. Here's some of the stories. So some people, this family lost their home and their garden. The garden was their food source. Right? Okay, they had to move in with friends, but that's not going to last all that long. Okay, might be able to go to work, but my kid can't go to school. What I'm going to do with my kid? Does that sound familiar? Yeah. Okay. So a farmer burned my fields, lost the whole grain crop. Yeah, how am I supposed to feed my family? And then, I have to sell the extra crops. So no income. What do I do? So villagers lose their source of income, lose their jobs. Okay, my house was burned. I was injured when I was helping my neighbors. Okay, nowhere to go. I'm in pain. Can't work until I'm in better shape. So, what kind of help can I get? There's medical needs. So we got 3 teams. So we got the Helpers United, the Healers Incorporated, and Community Agriculture Association. They're all ready to help once they know what they're going to do. So, healers, their mission: provide direct assistance to any individual who's hurt so they can heal. So they need to look for who are they going to help. Helpers, they run shelters for the villagers, the ones that have no housing. Okay. And then they provide support for families, minor repair issues, so that they can return to their homes. So who are they going to help? Then the Community Agriculture Association, they're involved in getting the food where it needs to go. So, and help the farmers to get the fields back in place. Okay, so we're going to do a little activity here. And I think we've got enough. If maybe one person from one of these tables, so it's like 2 groups of 3 and 1 group of 4. So we'll have 3 different groups here. Yeah, John, if you join these ladies here, yeah. So I mean, we've got the healers, we got the helpers. Remember we've got the Community Agriculture Association, right? Healers help people. They do healing stuff, right? Helpers run shelters, housing, get the houses back into shape. Community Agriculture Association, food orientation, that sort of thing. Okay. So who wants to be the healers? Okay, this is you're first, healers. Who wants to be the helpers? Who's going to be the helper? You guys are helpers. All right. In back, you get to be the Community Agriculture Association. All right. And anybody who's online, we're thinking, think about this in terms of if you were the elders. And as you're listening in, as you're thinking about this, what would the oversight body be thinking about? What were the questions they'd want? What needs are they going to be looking at? Okay? So, from your perspective, in your organization, hand this out here, we're going to do an assessment. Yeah, thanks. So if you can come up with a couple of needs, what services, and if you're going to do it in Roma order, a couple of needs, what outcome you want to see from those services, and then what services would meet those needs. Does that make sense? So we got our table of healers here, got a table of helpers over there, and Community Agricultural Association table back there. We ready to go? We'll give you about 8 minutes. So, any questions? All right, go for it. Too bad we can't play the music. Haven't been. Yeah, so there's like a tab, alt. Doesn't want. Yeah, to be able to get out, you're supposed to do tab alt, but it's not working. Let me see if I can. I'll just try this way.
Each table should present out.
Yeah. Just trying to figure out where he had.
That's different than what's up there. That's interesting.
Yeah, because it's in the play mode. I'm not getting to the. If you want to do, there's Edge. You don't mind being an Edge? Okay. So I just.
Then I would just Google, type in my URL.
Yeah.
We'll do it afterwards.
Okay.
15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just trying to look for the. Okay. I was trying to look for the chat function.
Your CAA joke went over well. That was one of your contributions.
Yeah, whatever. Let's go back into this then. Yeah, he put it up so I could see the chat, but I'm not finding it again. Yeah. That's what I left at home. lost it. We were going to have, if we had a handout, it's sitting at my house, a handout for you guys. I think they've got it figured out. I don't know. That's really straightforward. That one is. Yeah. Okay, is everybody about done? You guys are done? Everybody done? Woo-hoo. All right. So which group wants to be the first one to report out? Volunteers.
So tell us your group. So
We are the healers, and we pretty much, we're all in the same boat. The main need is, burn healing, injury repair. And then the service is, having access to care, having burn treatment, things like that. And then the outcome is healed.
So just to jump in, when we teach this, those do it.
Yeah, what's the order that you...
This way on purpose. You go need to the outcome because it's a mirror, and then so it's the bridge, right? And then services are how you're going to get there.
So I'm unhealed. I need to be healed.
That's basically.
Woohoo, the mirror, yes.
And then I have access to healing.
Yes, yes, yes.
Sounds like a prayer group. Okay.
Very good,
And
yeah.
again, the services are
Access to healing.
yes. Well, give us specifics.
Yeah. How would that work?
Provide a hospital and treatment.
Yes. Okay. There you go.
Okay, hospital, yeah.
Doctors, anything like that. That's right.
Okay.
We also had fear of dragons
Yes.
or trauma.
Yes.
Oh, perfect, trauma, yes, yeah.
Health aspect. No, absolutely.
Yeah, so they could talk through their fear of the dragons and, yeah.
So the outcome would be not being afraid
Okay.
or whatever, not being freaked out. And the service would be psychological support.
Right, yeah.
Therapy.
Yeah, you could do a little dragon desensitization by going up the hill if you...
Well, we're afraid that the dragons are going to come back, so we're not too sure about the outcome.
Outcome, yeah, that could be up in the air, outcomes, true.
Everyone understand again from need to outcomes to services and be creative, right? Okay.
Yeah. I like that. It's so often people only think about the physical needs without thinking of the psychological needs for healing as well. So I'm glad you guys thought about that. So thank you. Yes. All right. Who's next? Helpers or agriculturists? We'll go helpers.
So and this is all deals with shelter, lack of shelter homes. And so the needs are the lack of shelter, or their home is damaged so that they're not livable and or they need repairs, or absolutely destroyed. And the outcome is to have first a temporary place to live in, shelter to live in, and to have their home repaired or rebuilt so that they have a place to go back into. So for services, to coordinate with the building owners to use the public or commercial spaces that are existing as temporary shelters, think IGA or MOU, which might be a little slow, I don't know. And then other services to contract with contractors, I know that's a redundancy, for repairs and to rebuild homes, and to leverage existing skills of displaced families. We were still in the process of drafting a funding plan though, because this takes money.
Yes. Right. But you could apply to those two organizations that, the bankers group and the other one, I forget the name. Yeah. Perfect.
To
Yeah.
replicate CSBG and other CDBG. Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, so again, the model, right? Need, outcomes,
Outcome.
how are you going to achieve the outcomes? Or I like to think of it as how do you know you're going to be successful?
Yeah. And you had the two different type, like if your home is totally burnt down to the ground, it's different than if it has some burns and needed some temporary help. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. Community Agriculture Association.
You're on. CAA.
Sorry, you're on turned around. So the first need we identified was to regenerate the land, since the dragon burned it. And then the outcome for that would be to increase the food supply, grow more crops.
Can I stop 1 second? Okay. It's a trip word. You said the need is to generate the land, right? The need is that's the service. Why do you need to generate the land? That's
So lack.
that's the,
Okay, so
so what would you say?
to grow food.
No, but the question is why. The need is a why, right? So the need is my crops were destroyed.
Regenerate crops.
Yes. So in other words, the need, I just want to stop, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the need is this, if you're saying it, that becomes the service, but the question is, why do you, well, the need is, what is the, if you want to, what is the situation that
Right.
created the need, right? So the
Mhm.
issue is the dragon burned the crops.
Crops.
So now what you described perfectly well was the service.
Yeah.
And I said, when I said earlier that we all do this, it's just, I'm so glad you did it that way because we all do it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we know what needs to get done, so we want to jump into the doing of the getting it done. Yeah.
The need is to grow the food.
Or, well, yes, one of the needs would be to grow the food, that's correct. But there's different levels, so that could be absolutely a need. To replant the fields could be another one, right? But you're right, grow the food, that's exactly right, that is a need, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there could be subsets, kind of like the subsets of the damaged shelter are, completely damaged versus a few minor repairs. There's subsets of need to grow food. Like, it was the field completely 100% torched and all of it's gone? Or was it somewhat, maybe it just needs more water and 10 or 11 care, that kind of thing, right? But yeah, so you're getting into some of the more subtleties involved in there, yeah. Subtleties in agriculture.
We might have a lot of things switched around, but we'll go through what we come up with as a group. So we also said we had a need to find our alternative suitable land for farming, since some of it might not be usable.
An alternative what?
To find alternative
Yeah,
land
to
for
farming, right.
farming.
Can't
Ah,
fit-
yeah.
Sure.
That's no
Yeah.
longer usable. And the outcome, I guess, would be the same as the kind of first idea, is to increase the food supply,
Right.
right? So the service would be to grow more food. And then another need we thought of, that's kind of also a two parts, but sort of separate, is to identify what equipment we have that's still salvageable, and obtain new equipment, or like what we're lacking.
Good. Yeah, if the equipment is damaged, burned, yeah, yeah.
Right, the need is equipment is damaged, right?
So the outcome of that would be to increase our productivity and have the ability to farm, right? So the service, I guess, would be to repair what we can or purchase new equipment or build new equipment. And then the last need we came up with was a need to distribute food to all the people that are hungry.
So again, that's the service, what's the need? People are,
Lack food.
right, people are hungry, right?
Yes.
No, that's it, yeah.
Or even food is not where the people are.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the
And
service.
then the outcome was to increase access to food.
Yeah.
And then we thought we could do like a farmer's market
Yeah.
as a service for that.
Cool.
So
Hey, good job.
So you got a
Yeah.
sense of the exercise, it does take a little thinking, and then you get to the proper way to do it, I think.
Yeah. Does it feel like, coming up with logic model for the folks that you work with in real life as opposed to a fantasy story? Close enough? Yeah, same process. So, if you want to.
Sure, yeah, so here's basically suggested answers. Every group did well, okay? So, and it's just different color fonts, it's not one is better than the other. So one of them, if you see on the top left, the need, villages are homeless or doubled up with other families. You jump to the outcome, right? Villages obtain safe, clean shelter. You go back to the service, 20 families will be placed, and temporary 20 families have their homes repaired. Then the indicator, again, we were only lightly talking about this. Well, if you're estimating 20, we think of this as the denominator, it's the pool. and we're estimating that 18 or 20% will obtain safe temporary shelter, and you see the same statistic for family homes, occupiable, again, a real statistic. And then your tools, as you can see, case records, villager housing reports, etc. So similar second need, villagers are hungry and can't obtain food, are not prepared for the next planting season. Outcome, universal, right? Villagers are no longer hungry. And again, the numbers are here. Families will receive food from the food bank for X number of 90 days and receive the tools similar to what was just said here, okay? And outcome, no longer hungry. And as you can see, the indicator, we're just simply assigning. Remember, the way we like in the Roma world, we leave the outcome statement without numbers. And what we learned historically is if you put numbers in there, people start arguing about the numbers, not about the content. So that's why we separated it in the Roma logic model. So the indicator then is the numbers, okay? And as you know, those who report nationally are plus or minus 20% in terms of accuracy for projections. All right, so you have the numbers. Again, you got the output tools. Third need, villagers don't have income to meet basic needs. Okay, outcome is the opposite, the mirror. Villagers have income. And the service is modest income replacement for 90 days from a communal fund. Remember, there were the two global funders. And again, you have your statistics in the fourth column. And lastly, for those that are the healers, villages are hurt from the fires. Villagers heal and regain health, which is what we discussed. And there's healthcare services, you know, from Healers United. It's obviously a branch of the United Way, but okay. And then you can see the rest of it played out, the projected indicator and the measurement tool. And that's what I have done is if you can map out your service, your programs on a piece. Now, first of all, you can't get necessarily everything in a small box. So you can footnote it and you have the supporting documentation. But there's a story here. This is a story, okay? And it's also, what I like is by putting the numbers, you're publicly holding yourself accountable. And that's so much important in our industry. So.
Yeah.
Next one.
You're on next.
Okay, so what we talked about was basically family and a little bit of community with the grow at the crop. So let's take a look at the community. It's a little bit different. Okay. All right. So, you know, it's funny when I think about it, the word community action, so often you forget that that's part of the title. You know, you think of it as individuals coming in or families, but it was also designed for communities. And there are some agencies that are really focused. Actually, some do not even have clients, as we would think as people. They just do community work. So that does exist. Okay, so we're talking about community-wide improvement in a defined geographic area. You still have measurable goals and strategic activities. We use the word service for individuals and families. We use the word strategies for agencies and community. It's the same concept, because you don't provide a service to the community per se. It's more of a strategy of doing things. And again, the last part is clearly define CSBG's role and things like that, who your partners are, expertise, capacity, things like that. So again, there's a lot more materials. Those of you who've taken Roma, you know this is much more extensive. But for this is really an introductory using the allegory of a story, you know. Okay, so this is sort of a summary, basically.
With adding the community level mission.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So again, if we're talking about the healers, public health, there's your community, right? It's more than just the individual. So it's the public health conditions, a safe place, and of course, who are they going to help? The second one, the same with the helpers. Rebuilding homes, remember, like affordable housing, permanent housing, it's really the community gets together and has a community-wide effort, shelters, et cetera. So it's really the same agency operating at the community level. And the last one, the CAA, we're talking about replant fields, establish a farming economy, which is what our colleagues here said. So essentially, you think about it as all dimensions, okay? So they each have a role at both the individual level and in the community level to obviously ameliorate the damage caused by the dragon. All right, so do we do this one or no? We'll skip it, yeah. So basically, it's the same thing here, which you sort of got a head start here, so to speak. We do the same exercise. the same way the 3 agencies, what are the needs, what are the outcomes, what are the services. So it's the same thing. We have extra copies of this if you want, and I believe this is posted to the CCA website. So you can also contact each organization if you want additional information.
We'll definitely share the blank ones, because we got extras. Right. Does folks want to see conclusion of the story?
So the helpers and healers scheduled times to meet as soon as possible with the families in need, and everyone benefited. The elders decided to gather together the notes of what was learned, how they learned it, and what tools would be needed in the future. And in this organized manner, they could share their knowledge with others in the village who volunteered their services, and to the staff of Helpers Incorporated, Healers United, and the CAA. One of the helpers, the one with the best handwriting, was chosen to be the scribe so that the procedures and tools for helping the villagers could be recorded should another calamity befall the village. The resulting book was named Results-Oriented Mending and Agriculture. And so it came to pass that the villagers whose lives had been affected by the dragon were able to get back to their normal way of life through the goodwill of the villagers and the 3 community organizations who followed up to make sure all was well. The story doesn't quite end here. There still remained the threat of the dragon. As the story goes, some of the villagers took note that the dragon appeared distracted upon hearing the sound of music, which was also the experience of the brave musicians who previously scouted out the dragon. With this knowledge, a group of elders once again suggested a cautious visit to the foot of the mountain by the town's musicians, now known as the Old Village Folk Band. They were offered generous compensation along with a free meal. Some of the village folks smugly referred to this as the Last Supper. Following dinner and carrying their instruments on their backs, the musicians made their way to the foot of the mountain and began playing a medley of joyous tunes. As the music got louder and increased in tempo, the mountain began to shake. At first, the musicians thought that their lively toe-tapping was responsible for the ground shaking, but upon seeing flashes of light and fire visibly moving down the mountain, they quickly realized the presence of the dragon and feared for the worst. But this time it was different. Somehow charmed by the sounds of the Old Village Folk Band, who nearly soiled their undergarments as the dragon approached, and much to their surprise and relief, the dragon lay down alongside the band and tapped its tail in sync with the music. From then on, every time the mountain began to shake, the villagers knew that it was the dragon keeping beat with the musicians who, from that day going forward, never missed a day of work. Each year, with the arrival of the annual fall harvest, the dragon descended down the mountain and joined the villagers in music and dance to the uplifting and lively melodies of the Old Village Folk Band, and never breathed flame upon the village again.
You guys had fun with that, didn't you?
Oh, we had a load of fun with that.
Yeah, we all worked together, had a good time with it.
Yeah. Yeah, because, well, we thought, yes, it would make sense to, let's start from the idea of putting together the online course, which you all have access to. If you go to Camp's table there, use your phone, you can go in with your phone, take it for free. There's a little bit, we have a little game in there where you get to put the letters in order in the Roma table. So, it's okay. We decided we wanted the information to get out there, but we also wanted to have fun with it so people wouldn't be just like bored, okay, here we go, another logic model training. So, yeah. So, we had fun. And now we're here in 2025. And, when Fred and I were talking about, so what are we going to say at this conference, especially like coming right after David Bradley. Yeah. So, like, we got dragons out there, right?
Loss of healthcare for 60, what is it, 80 million?
Yeah, loss of healthcare for who knows how many. Yeah, there's a dragon. potential, as he was saying earlier, potential that all money could be gone. Or even if it's just just a 50% cut, what was that going to mean, right? So logic models may seem like real, tiny tools, but they're some of the best tools we have. How can they be helpful?
Just going to add that part of what I think we have to do is educate. And I'll speak about this tomorrow, but also my session after this, I'll talk about that too. But yeah, to some degree, I think we have probably not done some of the homework we could have done to prepare for things like this. But at any rate, so I think to take Bradley's stuff, if you localize this, I think is what he's really talking about, because he's always talking about the reps. So again, using that logic model, some of your programs and services, who the clients, customers, your agency, what is just the role of, in your community and things like that. I don't know if showing this visual, the animated to your local congressperson would make a difference. It might, I don't know. It's to entertain them, then maybe they could follow along, Yeah, actually probably would if you polish it up, right? So what's the next one here? So basically the need, there's your Roma cycle. And normally I wish I didn't invent the logic. It was invented by a guy named Joseph Holy in the early 1970s. But I modified it. But what struck me is it has all of these elements in it. All right, if you think about it, you plan, that's where you start. You implement, right, the indicators, the results column is in there. You collect the data, the achievement of results, and you evaluate, you analyze the data. Did we succeed? How well did we do? Things like that. So that's basically it. I mean, we think about it, community action has a pretty good body of literature that supports what we do. A lot of organizations don't, but the question is, how well do we communicate that? So
Yes. How well do we communicate it, and also how do we put it to use when things change, right? The environment in which we're all functioning now is changing. We need to assess our environment, right? Our new environment. How is it changing? In day-to-day, sometimes how is it changing? What are the particular ways it will impact our clients, our agency, and our community? And then what do we do to plan, right? Then we implement the plan. What are the results? Evaluate that. It's the same thing. The Roma cycle is the way to address changes in the whole larger environment that we're in.
So the theory of change, again, this goes back longer than I thought. If you go online and, I guess for lack of a term, Google it, what surprised me is when I first saw theory of change, I attributed it to nonprofits. Turned out it's as much used in corporate America, which kind of surprised me. And essentially, the logic model is a variation of theory of change. This is what closes out today's presentation. And so let's take a look at the next slide there. Okay, so a theory of change is basically, again, if you look at the bottom there, it's a conceptual roadmap for how an organization expects to achieve its intended impact. So it's really how the organization is planning to address the problems, succeed. And essentially, the big picture, it's a series of logic models. We'll see the next one here. So there's your Roma logic model. You recognize it, pretty much the one we had. And so one of the things we're trying to do here is that, and again, I think this has gotten much better over the years. Community action, by definition, is almost like a conglomerate, right? It's a series of programs. And what the real trick is, and people do this okay, they identify the services, the outcomes, but they're not looking holistically. If I walk into an agency, the first question I'll ask is, how many clients do you serve? And then I'll follow it up and say, duplicated or unduplicated. Because really, what you're trying to get as the client, not the program, and that's what you're trying to get at here. So where you want to go is to this next one, where as you can see here, you're bringing in family level, community, family level, family, community, and agency level outcomes, how the services, you'll notice strategies for people, services for people, strategies for community and agency. And at the end of the day, the theory of change is all agency-wide outcomes. And if we look at the national model, it took a long time for this. I think it took 2 years at the national level. This is the basically theory of change for the 1,100 or so community action agencies. Most of you should recognize this, I assume. You've seen this? Okay. What's interesting here is, if you look at goal 1, there's no mention of self-sufficiency, all right? Stability and economic security, all right? Goal 2, you're improving the community's healthy and safe economic. And lastly, people are engaged. Research is real clear. If people are engaged, they're more likely to have stronger communities, people are connected, and things like that. You'll see your services there. And by the way, you'll notice the pillars on the left and the right. That is the pillars that hold up the goals, and then how you get there. You have basically your 6 major interventions that we use. You have core principles, poverty, build solutions, pursue positive level change, et cetera. And you can get this online. I mean, if you just Google community action national, it's all there. And then lastly, performance management. And this is where I focused, Joanne has focused pretty on a lot of this too. How well does the network operate? What difference does the network make? And that's part of the issue. I think when listening to Bradley, it didn't matter, because I remember when Obama zeroed it out. If we weren't making the case under a more friendly administration, apparently we needed, and here we are, which is obviously not a friendly administration. So essentially, how can we demonstrate our performance, success, and things like that? And again, that's part of what I'm going to talk about tomorrow morning. Okay, so this is in the Roma materials. This is a template you can use. It's online. And essentially, you can fill out, this is a think piece. This is where you get people around a room, a table. Let's talk about the big picture, sort of like we did with the healers and the helpers in the Community Agriculture Association.
I'm curious, yeah. So, of everyone here, do you have a local theory of change?
Good question. It's not required. Does your agency have a theory of change? I see more agencies doing this, but it's still not there. That's what you're going to talk to a congressperson or
Right. Yeah, if you're going to talk to somebody in politics, this language gets across.
Exactly. And that colored picture, that's the classic, the picture's worth 1,000 words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you can put it in an infographic with brief words that describe different points, yeah.
Is this online? Can we just download this?
I think it should be, but again, this particular PowerPoint is online as well, so you can just download it from this PowerPoint.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you're having trouble getting a hold of something, or you're wondering where you can get things, email me, whatever. Yeah. Because this is now is the time to have a theory of change, right? Yeah, it's John, you've kind of got an idea of why it would be helpful. Yeah.
This is a time of change.
This is a time of
If we're not
change. Yeah.
prepared for it, we're screwed. Right.
Yeah.
That's it in a nutshell.
Right. And one of the things I was picking up from what David Bradley was saying is the importance of talking with the people around you, talking with your partners, talking with the community as a whole, talking with everyone. The process of creating a theory of change is intentionally community-based. It is a way of getting people into a room and talking together about what matters, what really matters. It's a perfect opportunity to be talking with your local politicians, to be talking with funding sources, to be talking with the people in your community that could be your grassroots support. So having a get-together just to talk about this stuff and come up even with a draft puts you miles ahead in that process.
And also, this is really, if you think about it, we know enough about the legislation that's passed that it's going to profoundly affect communities. So you can zero in on your own community, say, okay, Medicaid cut's going to do this, SNAP is going to do this. Where are people going to go? And I know from my own experience recently that foundations have been deluged now with, they have, quote, half money, but foundations don't sustain programs long term. They test ideas. ideas, demonstrations, things like that. So this is the time where you could almost say back to the local elected officials or other movers and shakers, things are going to happen in this community that you may not be aware of, and we are one of the few safety nets, at least historically, that could deal with it. But if you think about it, we're going to get overwhelmed potentially. So.
Yes. And how are you going to adapt? This helps you figure out how you're going to adapt. What areas you have to be flexible in, where can you prepare ahead of time, where can you be proactive? And if nothing else, how can you feel like you're doing something as opposed to just standing and watching the wave come and knock everybody over, right? A theory of change is a way of, even just the process of working on one is a way of being proactive and making a difference. Yeah, the process, sometimes more. Because sometimes people come up with theory of changes as whatever, but the process brought people together and had the communication. So it's a plug for homework. Do one. Yeah.
So basically, that's what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Now, we did have some pictures
A
here.
little more fun.
What started this is during COVID, when so much went virtual, you would see a cat or dog cross. Wasn't that rare. And so we did put out a note and said, does anyone have any dog pets that are interested in Roma? So this is Hazel, and she won't, it's the blue one, she won't let it go. And then we have one more. And these were your pets, if I remember? These are Joanne's pets. They're fully Roma trained, certified trainers, and speak a different language.
Yes, yeah. Unfortunately, not bilingual, though.